throughout the years, we have seen that there's been attack on ethnic studies throughout the United States. However, ethnic studies is something that brings cultural diversity and cultural knowledge to our students. It helps students be more aware of themselves and other people. It's really something that we can really do to move our district forward to be a progressive school district. Congress, Assemblyman Aliso has a bill right now pending on the State Assembly that would also look at ethnic studies as a way of empowering our students. Through the Raza Studies and the African American Studies in Tucson, Arizona, teachers and educators and the school board there have actually been able to increase graduation rates of minority students in those school districts. I hope that we can make this a requirement for our students to take here because we believe that everybody's histories, her stories, everybody's culture, arts should be celebrated within our district. So fellow board members, I strongly support ethnic studies and cultural awareness, and I hope you support this motion as well.
Yes.
I would actually really hope that the staff really looks at this and really takes ownership of it, where we have staff members who, and when I wrote the resolution, I left it open and broad enough not to say one specific type of ethnic studies class, but it could be an African American literature class, it could be a Chicano art class. We already teach a Mexican American heritage class at our Rancho High School, but I think if we develop a lineage of classes that we can offer to our students that goes beyond the Common Core, beyond the standards, that bring critical thinking and precious knowledge to our students, I think that that will be absolutely great, and I want our educators involved in bringing this program to our school district.
I think that to continue with our spirit of collaboration, that would go hand in hand with what we're trying to do. Is if we are passing this resolution, we also expect that the groups or people that are going to be impacted by that have a say-so in what it's going to look like. I would support it in that manner.
After that, so there's actually a year before programming for for the students that we can actually modify, change, add. I definitely would be interested in what kind of courses the teachers at our ranch would like to teach that would fall into the ethnic studies category. Also look at what kind of professional development and what kind of support we can give to the teachers there so they can actually implement some of the curriculum. Could we pass, would we be able to pass the resolution and give direction to the superintendent to go back to the school and work with the teachers on the implementation process? Works. Is that fine?
I just want to applaud the board for their drive to move forward with the cultural awareness. I run into people every single day that are totally ignorant to other cultures and what's going on with the world. I just wanted to say that real quick.
Hi everybody, my name is Erick, and I'm actually a prospective resident of Pico Rivera. I'm going to be moving up from Orange County up into the LA area soon, and having 3 children, I think it's really important, and one of the things that I really look for when I look at school district and I look at the education of my 3 kids is, does the curriculum reflect like the culture of the community? And does the curriculum introduce my children to having a global perspective and understanding different cultures, especially here in Los Angeles County, where we have so many different ethnicities and nationalities all blending and working together. I think it's extremely important to pass a resolution like this and not just bring in parts of ethnic studies into curriculum, but actually have an entire curriculum that's based on ethnic studies, and that better prepares our students for the future of this globalized economy in working within this context. So I'd like to commend and recommend that the board pass this today. I think it's really one of a kind, and it'll pivot this district in particular to be at the forefront of a lot of what we want education to look like. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carbajal.
Good afternoon, board. My name is Patricia Ornelas, and I grew up in the city of Pico Rivera. I graduated from Rancho High School in 1995. Currently in 2011, I received my BA in sociology with an emphasis on inequalities and diversity. I'm a graduate student. I'm studying Latin American studies. Through my educational journey, I experienced the importance of ethnic studies. Ethnic studies is the interdisciplinary, and it validates the lived experiences and voices of Chicanos, Chicanas, Mexicanos, Mexicanas, Black, Asian, Native, Central, South American people. Ethnic studies will provide the students with critical thinking skills, intellectual and cultural space to explore. It will provide students to become proactive learners in their education. I would love to see students engaged in all their classes, leading to an overall student success and higher graduation rates. I would have also loved to have had ethnic studies during my time at Rancho High School. Thus, the reason why I'm here is because my heart is in ethnic studies. The diaspora of people that have traveled throughout our history, linking ethnic studies through a sociological perspective is important in my studies, and I feel that it's important in our youth studies as well. Excuse me, lost my place. It is important that we as educators, and myself as an educator, because I do work for the LA Unified School District, and I am also a community organizer in the city of Boyle Heights, that El Rancho Unified School District takes a really good look at the way that this program or the requirement of this program will take place in the district. I still have family here. I live in the city of Whittier, but I still have family here and cousins that I know would love and will take a great pleasure in having this program, or just to make it a requirement for our youth. It's very, very important. And I think it would be a beautiful thing for our community and the youth. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good afternoon, Board. My name is Blanca Cruz, as you said. I am not only a community organizer in this community, but also in LA. I'm also a high school teacher. I've taught history, I've taught Spanish, and I've taught sociology, and also dealt with discipline. And I bring that up because of a few things. The comment was made earlier that we really don't know what's gone on in Arizona. The research really isn't there. No, the research is there. It's been done. And in fact, educators across the country have traveled to Arizona and have invited educators from Arizona and students down to LA, including LA Unified, to learn about what went on in Arizona. Not only did we see an increase in state test scores, which I know is something that as a board member and even as educators we're interested in, but most importantly, we saw an increase in students going to college. We saw a decrease in discipline issues. And a lot of that ties together with even just something as simple as validating the existence of these individuals. I've worked as a teacher for 13 years. I've also been a community organizer, about half of that time. I've traveled myself to Arizona when the struggle was being fought by these teachers, simply because we saw the transformation in the lives of these youth. I'm a parent as well. My daughter's currently finishing up her 3rd year at a local private college, and one of the things that she's studying in addition to sociology is also Latin American studies, and I've seen the transformation in her as an individual. Ethnic studies was not part of her curriculum when she was growing up at the high school level. It was not, because it was an optional course. However, I made that part of what she learned, and I can tell you, just validating their history makes a big difference. Now, I would love for that to happen, and I hope it's happening in our history classes throughout all our different districts, but the truth is, if you look at our history books, they don't include this history. Very few times do our own students get to hear about their individuals in history that they can look up to. Aside from Martin Luther King, aside from Cesar Chavez, they hear very little about other individuals that have struggled alongside people in their own communities, within their own communities, and even in their native countries. So I do urge you to begin to look at that reality. We are facing right now an attack as a community against our different students, whether they're undocumented or because their history is not being taught for different reasons. And so the more that we validate their existence as educators in the classroom, the more we can have a guarantee that they're going to succeed beyond high school, beyond meeting high school requirements. They're going to be successful individuals who can then come back to their community and begin to work with other youth. So I urge you to pass this resolution. Not only that, but I am going to comment in terms of like the comment made about our students needing skills. When you begin to truly implement critical pedagogy in our classroom, because that's what that is, you call on our students to not only begin to think, but to develop the skills to present their histories to others. Today I just came back from a workshop. I was in there with actually another Pico Rivera teacher, and we heard from students directly in the research that they've done and going out to their communities to learn about their struggles, to learn about their histories, and it was probably the most impacting experience for all the educators that were sitting in that class, in that room, to learn directly from these students about their own history. So I truly urge you to pass this, not simply because it'll help, right, the students in terms of their skills and the test scores, but simply because it will even begin to transform our own community, and we need that. Thank you.
Thank you,
That's
Mr.
okay.
Cruz.
I'm here to offer my support for item 22B, the resolution in support of modifying existing graduation requirements to include a course in cultural awareness and ethnic studies. My name is Javier San Roman. I'm an executive board member of the California State Association of Mexican American Educators. I'm also a member of the Raza Studies Now organization. Both are organizations that support and advocate for the inclusion of culturally relevant and responsive education, as well as, you know, the opening of opportunities for students to access ethnic studies, high quality ethnic studies courses and programs. I'm going to be brief. I just want to say that in listening to some of the comments, public comments, I know that one of the concerns may be buy-in, and definitely I didn't see, you know, that particular process wouldn't be a part of this resolution, that it would necessarily have to include the expertise of practitioners in the field, as well as you know, buy-in and as well as informing the community. I also wanted to say, you know, that it was mentioned earlier about the Alejo bill, an assembly bill that is going to the Senate, California Senate tomorrow. That is also going to identify best practices and standards for establishing and implementing ethnic studies in public high schools. So it's very important to consider this resolution as the state moves and many school districts move in the direction of preparing themselves to prepare their students to meet the challenges of, you know, our current times. And so as the state moves and many school districts move, I know that in Santa Monica they have an ethnic studies course available in the high schools, and there was a LA Times article on it. I know of many different school districts that are moving in this direction. They're preparing themselves because if this bill passes, they're going to be identifying model programs, courses, and best practices. And I'd like to see Pico Rivera have something available if that indeed happens, so that they can identify, you know, Pico Rivera and the high schools that have these courses as participating and modeling best practices. So thank you.
Okay, if I could discuss, I just want to, one other thing I do want to emphasize is that many colleges and universities have an ethnic studies or a cultural awareness requirement, including every single UC, and UCLA is actually the only UC that does not have that requirement, but they're actually looking at right now having that requirement. I know Cal State LA does, I know, I think Whittier College does, I'm not certain though. But folks, I mean, I know that standards are important, I know Common Core is important, I know that those are important, but if we're really preparing our students for a global society, if we're really preparing our students to interact, to think critically, to work with other people, to know themselves, I think it's really important that we lead in this direction. I think Mr. San Roman said it best when he said that there's movement statewide to move in this direction. I would like Pico Rivera to be the leader, to model, to work with our teachers. Let's develop that curriculum. Let's look at how we can implement this motion. There's no specific thing in this motion that prevents us from working with the educators, sitting down, not just with the history department, but with the art department, with the English department, with the math department, and look at how we can really develop these courses for our students, so we can have a robust program in our school district that could be a model for others to follow. It's time for Pico Rivera, it's time for our school district at Rancho to be a leader in education. And this is one step to do that. Another step to do that is going to be a motion coming up later on a Magnus High School program that we hope we're going to get some buy-in into. But I think we need to move in this direction. We have a year long before we can fully implement it, and what it's going to look like at our school district is going to be decided by the teachers themselves and the students and the parents of the schools. This motion does not prevent us from getting together and making sure that there's buy-in and we're creating it, and we're going to do this the El Rancho way, right? Not the Tucson, Arizona way, but we're going to make this our own. Thank you.
As educators, we all know that the more students know about their culture, the better they feel about themselves and the contributions they can make, not only to their city, but their community, their country. There have been, I don't think I have seen any studies that would say that ethnic studies harm students. All the studies that I'm aware of, and I have read all the studies you mentioned here, state that for students to be comfortable and appreciative and like themselves, we have to have such courses. I think that's one of the reasons why students find it so liberating when they get into a university, because they have the opportunity to take those courses. And they have an opportunity to say, you know what, there's nothing wrong with being different. That if we look at, instead of let's all be the same, let's all share our differences. That's what our country's made of. So I absolutely support classes that would have our students know more about their culture and have pride in where they come from and who they are. Not to say we're going to isolate ourselves and we're going to say only our culture matters, because I'm not an advocate of that. I'm not an advocate of just teaching Chicano studies and not teaching women's studies or black studies or whatever studies we feel are necessary in our district. So that's my discussion.
My daughter just graduated last year, and she's in her first year at school, and over the campaign, she had the opportunity to meet Mr. Carlos Montes, and at your house. And after maybe 5 minutes, all I heard was, I'm taking Chicano studies. I'm taking Chicano studies. And she ended up taking Chicano studies. So, I recognize that it's important. I understand that. But not having Chicano studies didn't hurt her from getting into college. And it didn't stop her from having it at college. My biggest concern is that Mr. Lara attempted to bring this forward previously, and I made the recommendation then that the teachers become aware of it so that they are aware of what the board would like to do. And I don't know that they were ever made aware of it. It's really quite unfortunate, because they had the opportunity to at least look into it and have that buy-in that we need. The speakers that have come forward that are from outside of Pico Rivera, that are outside of the community, I totally understand your passion for it, but I also recognize that I'm not the one that's going to be in the class teaching it. I'm not the one that's going to be building the curriculum. It's up to the teachers. And I have absolutely no reservations that this is a good resolution and that this should be passed, but not at this particular time. We can table it for another month. And I don't think tabling it for another month is going to hurt it, because it doesn't take that much to add this information or add this class to the curriculum that we've already set forward. But it certainly has to be looked at, and we have to have a certain amount of buy-in. And I'm concerned that if we don't do that and we don't respect our teachers and give them that opportunity to accept it and to create and build on that curriculum, that we're not going to do this program justice. We're not going to be able to give it the rich foundation, the support that it needs in order to carry it forward. There's so many different ethnicities that this type of program would cover. Just to give you a little bit of information, and it's not good or bad, it's just kind of how I was raised. But we weren't raised for the movement. The movement, good people, a lot of really great people got together. But unfortunately, like a lot of good movements, when they had the parade in East Los Angeles, a few renegades got guns, and a few people went ahead and started breaking windows. Well, that's not what the movement was about. And so my parents elected to raise me in a manner that I would represent the Latino community because I've assimilated to the American culture, not forgetting where I was or where I came from, because they ensured that I was a member of an escaramuza. And if you know about escaramuzas, it's Mexican charros, Mexican rodeos, and we wore the big hats, and we rode our horses' sights saddle right here in Pico Rivera. And so I grew up with that portion of my background being very up front and center. But what was more important to my family was that I represent the Latino community by becoming a contributing member to society. So they can sit there and, so people, when they looked at me or they heard me, they wouldn't see somebody who had not had the benefit of the education I had, and I was in the field, or I was not representing Latinos the way we are with the rich culture and the support. So I totally get the cultural issue with regards to presenting it to our kids so that those that want to have it have the opportunity to take it as an elective. But I really think that in order to get buy-in, we needed to give the teachers the respect that they deserve, because they're the ones that have to teach it. So that's my discussion.
Mr. Lara mentioned that this thing won't take effect until the following school year. What would it hurt it to table it temporarily until our next board meeting, but also meet with the stakeholders as we talked about, because that's what we constantly talk about, is bringing in the stakeholders and figuring out what is that we need, what's going to be best for our district, not the old way of this is what you're going to do and figure it out. I definitely in support of the resolution, but at the same token, I would like to know that the community, the district, our students had some sort of input, so that they feel 100% that this resolution can go by and they can work with the resolution in the way it's written, or whether they decide that it's modified in a certain way so it still doesn't take away what we want to do, but it tweaks it in a way so that we're all happy on what we're going to pass.
More was, I think this is an excellent direction for our district to go in. I think it's something I think we should be going into. I just wanted to make sure that we had the opportunity to meet with staff, and based on what I'm hearing Mr. Lara say and you as board members, I think for the most part is that it doesn't take away from that. I think the only thing I would want is if you as a board would approve it this evening, whether you decide to approve it or not, or whether you decide to table it. I just want the opportunity that as staff begins to make sense of this and move it forward, that if there are issues with it, I want to be able to bring it back to the board and say, board members, here's where we have some issues. It worked here, but it didn't work here. And I don't think you as board members would have any problem with that. So I just wanted to make sure that that was part of what we're doing. I think we do need to move in this direction. Just thinking about our community, and it was brought up before by a number of individuals here. We want our students to be global citizens, okay? And so in becoming a global citizen, you have to know about other cultures. You have to know about, and I heard before also, about women's studies also. I mean, that by itself is something we don't do enough. So I would say we do need to broaden the perspective of our students. I would be definitely in favor of that. If you as a board approve this tonight, I believe that based on what I'm saying and when I'm hearing the nodding, that yeah, if there's any problems, bring it back and let us know. I think, and I like what I heard because I was not aware of it, to be honest with you, the Alejo bill. Maybe I'd seen information, but I just hadn't captured it. It would be nice for a district to be seen as someone in the forefront in the state of California, if that indeed is happening, regardless of if we're a bill or not, it's being in the forefront. So I just wanted to make sure. So I would be, I'm not going to tell you that which way to vote, but I would not have a problem if you as a board says, you know what, we're going to approve this tonight. Have staff go into it, because either way, staff's going to have to go into it, and then bring it back if there's any problems.
I would like to call for a vote.
Okay, so at this point, do I hear a motion to approve the resolution as presented, the cultural awareness and ethnic studies resolution?
So moved.
Second? Ms. Canchola?
I'm going to vote no at this point.
Okay, Mr. Lara?
Yes.
Mrs. Alvidrez?
Yes.
Mr. Renteria?
I will be voting no also.
Villon, yes.